All right, so the first question we have is simplify. We have -3 plus -4 minus -2 plus -1 minus +7. How we go about doing this? Well, the first thing you want to do is to recognize that whenever you have that adding negative, right? When you have adding negative, you're going to treat it as negative or minus. So adding negative result in one sign, minus. Let's say you're subtracting negative, that will result in what? If you remove negative, think of it as positive. If you add negative, think of this as negative. All right. If you're subtracting positive, you're removing positive, then it's going to be negative, right? And it makes sense, right? Adding negative is negative. Subtracting negative, something positive. Subtracting or removing positive is negative, right? Of course, if you add positive, you can think of that's something positive. So these double signs, we have signs together like that. Avoid confusion, you can just make it one sign. So like this, I'll just treat this like, okay, you see these two signs here become what? Add negative will be what? Negative. Negative. These will be what? Positive. This will be what? Negative. Negative. This will be what? Negative. Negative. Right? And so then the next step, we're gonna simplify. So we have -3 minus 4 plus 2 plus, or should I say -1 plus -1 minus 7. Okay, let's work them in twos. Now here's the thing now. Let's say you say negative a minus b, right? This means you're going to add a and b, right? Add a and b, and you're gonna have subtraction, right? Subtraction of the sum of a and b. So you have a negative here and a negative here. You're gonna add a and b. So we can, in other words, we can factor out the negative, and we have a and b in the bracket here. So negative a, or negative times a is negative a, negative times b is negative b. All right, so let's illustrate this. If you have -5 minus 2, then you can put plus in the bracket, right? Plus what? In terms of plus, what we're gonna have in the bracket? 5 plus 2, and have negative both sides, so that would be -7. Clear? Okay, good. Now in the event, so when the signs are the same, you can just add the two numbers and keep the sign. So if you have -4 minus 3, what would that be?
4 plus 3.
7, and keep the sign. Alright, another way again to look at it. Keep the negative outside, and you have 4 plus 3. Right, and that will be -7. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So here's another way you can look at it now. See, like all these, you can group all the negatives together. -3, -4, -1, -7. Better way to read this is -3 minus 4 minus 1 minus 7. And then we only have 1 plus 2. So it's basically group all the negatives. Alright, but when we're reading it, we say subtraction after the first one. So -3 minus 4 minus 1 minus 7. Now, of course, they're all what? Adding, right? Or we can just factor out the negative. I said 3 plus 4 plus 1 plus 7 plus 2 outside the bracket there. Now, when you add 3 to 4, you get 7. Plus 7 is 40 plus 1, 15. And then you put back the negative onto it. Plus 2. Now what's going to be the result here? -15 plus 2.
-7.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. If we factor out a negative from this, look. Negative a, right? Plus b. Let's see if we can actually do that. If I factor out negative, what am I saying here? I'm saying a minus b. Right? A minus b. But the thing is though, whether we keep a negative sign, it depends on the number that we have. So perhaps I probably would not necessarily use this, but it can work with this. Let's see. Negative. Let's factor out the negative. Let's factor out the negative. We're gonna have what? 15, right? 15, right? Minus 2. Let's see if that works. What's 15 minus 2?
13.
13. And then apply the negative onto it. So what's the answer?
Negative 13.
Negative 13. Alright? So I factor out negative because negative times 15 is negative 15 and negative times negative is what? Positive, right?
Positive.
Positive, right? So a faster way to do this though, how can we get negative 13 quicker? Well, we can look at the signs in front of the numbers. This is positive, and this is negative, right? Think of them separately. So this is negative 15 and this is positive 2. Because the signs are different, we're going to do what? Subtract. Right. So we're going to get 13.
And keep the sign of the large number.
Right. If you ignore the signs, which number is larger? Ignoring the signs. 15. And look back at 15 now and see what sign it carries.
Negative.
Negative, yes. So that's probably the fast way of doing this. All right. But it'll be interesting though because sometimes you might have to keep the sign of. Okay, let me see if I can put it differently. What if the positive was bigger? So let's say we have negative 5 plus 7. Could the technique work where I actually factor out the negative and it would work? Let's see what would happen there. If I factor out negative, what would we have? 5, right? 5 what?
Minus 7.
5 minus 7. Okay, let's hold off the negative there. What's 5 minus 7? Negative 2, right? True? Because you say 5 minus 7. That's negative 2. You're taking a big number from a small number. Now, the thing is, we have a negative in brackets. So negative times negative is what? So that's positive 2. So the answer to this should be what? Positive 2. But is there a quicker way of doing that than going through all this? What's a quicker way we could actually do this? What's a quicker way? Well, the signs are different, so that means we'll subtract to get 2. But what sign did we keep? The sign of the 7 or of the 5?
7.
Right, so 7 is more. We have more positive than negative, so we keep the positive. Got it? Okay, so we see two different illustration here. When we had negative 15 plus 2, now we have negative 5 plus 7. In this one, which one is bigger? The negative. We have more of what? The negatives are positive.
Negatives.
So we keep the negative. In this one, we have more of what?
Positive.
So we keep the positive. All right. So it did work. Okay. So that's going to be the answer, negative 13. Okay. So let's look at the others. But this time we're going to just use the rules, right? So let's look at this. This will become what? That become what? And that become what? What signs will those be? Negative.
Positive.
Subtracting negative will be positive. Subtracting positive will be?
Negative.
Adding negative will be? Adding negative?
Negative.
Negative. Okay, so you pretty much have this down pat. Alright, now let's go now to the next step. So it's negative 4y plus 3y minus 5y minus 7y. Alright, we can group all the negatives together, right? Since they all like terms. So we have, but tell you what, let us do them just as they gave. We have them here. Negative 4y plus 3y. And let's use the rule like you said. Right? Or if you want us, we could actually do this. If you want us to do this, look. We can subtract, we could factor out the negative, right? But factor out is negative since it appears at the first term. I'm gonna have what? 4y,
Minus 3y.
Minus 3y. Because negative times positive is negative. And then this negative times negative is what?
Positive.
Right. So let's wait in the negative outside. 4 minus 3 is what? 1. 4 minus 3 is 1, right? Good. 4, and you take away 3 of it, of whatever quantity, whatever amount, whatever item I should say. So 4 apples minus 3 apples. 4 mangoes minus 3 mangoes will be 1 mango, right? So that's be 1y. How do you write 1y? Excellent. And negative, the negative going to negate the sign. So it's positive, so it's become what? Negative 1y. So there's a faster way we could actually do that. By doing what? Looking at the fact that we have 3, which is positive, and 4 with negative 4. So we'll subtract, yeah, right, get 1y, but is it going to be negative or positive?
Negative.
Because we have more negatives, right? Okay, good. So this will be negative 1y. Now here we have negative 5 minus 7y. How can we do that? Okay, we can do the faster way. Let me do the faster way. We have two signs that are the same there. All right, tell you what, let us write it this way. Negative 5y minus 7y. Let's factor out the negative from the first, right? So we're going to have here
5y.
5y,
Plus 7.
Plus 7y. And it makes sense, right? Because negative times positive is negative, isn't it? Okay, so that means we can add 5 plus 7 is 12y. And the negative negates it to be negative 12y, isn't it? So how could we have gotten negative 12y? Looking at this.
Same sign.
Same sign, so you do what?
Add.
Add. So 5 plus 7 is 12y. And what do we do with the sign? Well, the answer is negative 12y. So what we do? Looking at, we have negative 5, negative 7. So how we end up in negative 2?
What the sign?
What the sign? Since the signs are the same, just add and keep the sign. When they're different, you mean you have to choose one. But in this case, we don't have to choose one because they're what? The same. But when they're different, now you have to figure out which one do you choose. And the rule is that the one you have more of. You have more negatives, you put negative. You have more positive, you put positive. But in this case, you don't have to choose between which because they're both negatives, so you just put negative. See? Understand? So here, the signs are the same, right? Same though we say negative 5y and minus 7y. I mean, isolated, forgetting not or ignoring the negative 5y. We look at this term here as negative 7y. But when we're reading it, going from negative 5y, we say minus. But again, we're just looking at them as the same. Negative minus 5y minus 7y is minus 12y in total. Okay, so minus 12y. And that's the answer. All right, so the answer is minus y minus 12y. All right, so how about this one? How do we do this one?
Plus.
Right.
Positive.
Right, so bring the two signs together as positive. This one.
Negative.
This one.
Positive.
Positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative, very good. So what do you do to identify whether they're positive or negative? When you have the two signs together, what do you do to identify that? Any shortcuts you use in your mind?
See.
No? Okay, so when they're the same, you just put plus. When they're different, you put minus. I know you can actually think of this as multiplication too. Like negative times negative is, and positive times negative is, negative times positive is negative. Yeah. Because if you think about it, we can actually write this like this. So you end up multiplying the negative by the negative. It's a nice way of writing it, right? And you can write the plus negative 3x as this. Again, you use brackets there. Alright, so you can write it, we can rewrite it like this. So it'll be 7x, it'll be plus 5x, minus 3x, minus 4x. Okay, and this is going to become what? And 7 plus 5 is 13. And negative 3x minus 4x will be what? Well, think before you just put the answer. What do you do? Remember? If you were to factor out negative, it'd be what? 3 plus 4, isn't it? True? That'd be 7. So you have to add them then. then keep the sign. Make sense now? Okay, this one will be what? 13 minus 7 will be 6.